All right, in this explainer, we're tackling a concept that feels like a fundamental truth, self-esteem. But what if the relentless chase for it is actually making us miserable? What if it's a trap? I mean, think about it. From the time we're kids, we hear it nonstop. Believe in yourself. You gotta have high self-esteem to get ahead. It's sold to us as the secret sauce for a happy, successful life. But what if that's just plain bad advice? Okay, so first, let's dive into what I'm calling the high self-esteem myth. For decades, we've operated under this assumption that the higher your self-esteem, the better your life will be. But is that really how it works? And you can see why it caught on, right? It just makes sense. Feeling good about yourself seems like it should be the first step to doing good things in the world. It's been tied to everything from better grades to amazing relationships. But, when you actually dig into the research, the picture gets a lot murkier. And this is the question that changes everything. It's not just about how much self-esteem you have, it's about where you're getting it from. Is it a stable, internal feeling that you carry with you, or is it something you have to constantly chase and prove? That one little distinction is where it all starts to get interesting. And that leads us to this idea of a really fragile kind of self-esteem. One that's less like a solid foundation and more like a house of cards, ready to tumble at the slightest breeze. The technical term for this is contingent self-esteem. All contingent means is that your feelings about yourself depend on something else, like meeting a certain standard or living up to someone's expectation. Basically, it's self-esteem with a whole bunch of strings attached. This comparison just makes it so clear. On one side, you have unconditional self-worth, which is just a statement. I am worthy, period, full stop. But on the other side, you have this conditional equation. I am worthy if I get that promotion, if people like my post, if I don't fail. It basically turns your own self-worth into a performance review that never, ever ends. And look, this isn't just a nice idea. The research is really clear on this. As the study puts it, people who rely on this kind of validation have fragile or vulnerable self-esteem. It puts you on a wild emotional roller coaster, right? You're soaring when you succeed, but you absolutely crash and burn when you fail. So the big question is, how does this so-called fragile self-esteem actually hold up when things get tough? When life throws you a curveball, what happens then? Let's take a look at the data. Okay, so check this out. Researchers tracked university students during a really stressful semester, and the results are, wow. When stress was low, you can see everyone was doing pretty much okay. But bam, look what happens when academic stress gets high. For the students whose self-worth was stable and not tied to their grades, not much changed. But for those with high contingent self-esteem, their depressive symptoms shot through the roof. Their worth was on the line, and you can see the pressure was just crushing. Okay, so contingent self-esteem is emotionally risky, we get that. But maybe it's the price you have to pay to be a high performer. Let's poke a hole in that idea and look at the shaky link between feeling good about yourself and actually, doing well. I mean, that's the other big promise of the self-esteem movement, isn't it? That if you feel like a winner, you'll become a winner. It's this belief that's just baked into so many Western cultures. But is it actually true? So to test this, researchers did this really cool study comparing students in the US and in England. They measured both their self-esteem and their actual grades and tracked them over a school year. And the results were kind of wild. American students, on average, reported way higher self-esteem. But here's the kicker. The connection between that high self-esteem and their actual grades was pretty weak. It even got weaker over the year. Meanwhile, the English students, they had lower self-esteem, but their view of themselves was much more tightly and consistently linked to how they were actually doing in school. So, what in the world is going on here? Well, it turns out the American student self-evaluations were often, let's say, a little bit detached from reality. They were overly optimistic. Their high self-esteem was kind of its own thing, not necessarily a reflection of high performance. The British students, on the other hand, just had a more realistic view. So just pumping up self-esteem doesn't automatically create better results. Okay, so if chasing high self-esteem is a trap, what's the way out? What are we supposed to do instead? Well, this is where the story takes a really powerful and positive turn. The alternative is not low self-esteem, that's for sure. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about a completely different way of relating to yourself, one that doesn't involve judging yourself at all. And that alternative is called self-compassion. It's a concept pioneered by the researcher Dr. Kristen Neff, and it's all about treating yourself with support and kindness when you're going through a tough time. Here's the key difference. Self-esteem is about judging yourself as good. Self-compassion is about being kind to yourself, whether you're good, bad, or somewhere in between. And it's not some fuzzy concept. It's built on 3 really concrete pillars. First is self-kindness, just treating yourself like you would treat a good friend. The second is common humanity, remembering that messing up and feeling pain doesn't make you weird. It makes you human. Everybody goes through it. And third is mindfulness, just letting yourself feel the tough emotions without getting totally swept away by them. Okay, so let's bring this all home. What's the big takeaway from all this? How do we actually use this in our own lives to build a self-view that's a lot more resilient and, frankly, a lot healthier? This right here, this sums up the entire shift in mindset. Self-esteem is always asking these evaluation questions. Am I good enough? How do I stack up against everyone else? But self-compassion asks a much simpler and much more profound question. What's the kindest thing I can do for myself right now? See the difference? It's not about being better. It's about being there for yourself. And that, at the end of the day, is the goal. To get off that fragile roller coaster of contingent self-worth. The whole point is to build an inner foundation of support that doesn't disappear the second you fail, because it was never built on the idea that you had to succeed all the time in the first place. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Where does your self-worth come from? Is it something you feel like you have to earn every single day through your achievements? Or is it something you can offer yourself for free, especially on the days you need it most? The answer really could change everything.